Mental Fascination by William Walker Atkinson. Chapter 9. Experiments in Induced Sensation. In the last chapter, we considered instances of tests of experimental fascination along the lines of muscular control. In this chapter, we will consider the phenomena attendant upon induced sensation, all of which follows the same law of cause, and is produced in the same manner, and by the same methods as the muscular phenomena. Let us begin our consideration of sense control by the familiar test of the burning hand. The burning hand test. This test is performed in the following manner. You stand before the impressionable, the latter extending his hand toward you, palm downward. You place the first two fingers of your right hand upon the back of his hand, holding them there for a moment, and concentrating your gaze and will upon his hand. Then you say to him, sharply, rapidly, and positively, I am burning your hand. I am burning your hand. It is hot, hot, hot. It is burning, burning, burning you. Burning you, I say. Take it away, quick, I tell you. It is burning you, etc., etc. Always emphasizing the words hot and burning, and at the same time, willing that your fingers will feel hot to him. It is surprising how many people will experience the sensation of heat if you perform the test properly, and are able to concentrate your will sufficiently well, and accompany the same with vivid suggestions. A variation of this test is to give the impressionable a silver coin, telling him to hold it between his thumb and forefinger. Then, after a moment, give him the suggestions of it being hot, hot, hot. It's burning you, etc. You may even impress upon him the idea that while it is burning him, he is unable to let go of it, etc. Induced pain. Another test of the sense of feeling is that shown by having the impressionable hold out his hand, his arm being extended full length. Then, standing before him, with a pin between the finger and thumb of your right hand, pretend to prick your own hand, jabbing the pin into it, and grimacing as if with pain, at the same time saying to him, you see, you feel the pain of this pin. It hurts you, I say. You feel the pain instead of my feeling it. See, you feel it now. Making a feint of jabbing the pin into your own hand. You feel it, I say, etc. It is remarkable how many persons will take on the pain you are supposed to be feeling. Of course, your imagination should be exercised under the control of your will, so that you will allow yourself to imagine that you feel the pain. I have seen the above experiment tried before a room full of people, and many of the audience shared the induced pain with the impressionable, upon whom the experiment was being tried. Do not forget what I said in the last chapter about taking away the induced condition after the test. In the above cases, rub your finger over the burnt or hurt spot, saying, it's all right now. All right. The pain is all gone. If you do not do so, the impressionable may carry away with him a sensation that his hand had been subjected to heat or pain. Remarkable phenomena. In this connection, it may be proper to call your attention to the fact that the history of the subject shows cases in which burns have actually been produced on the bodies of persons by strong suggestion, coupled with physical aids. For instance, postage stamps have been placed in portions of the body with the suggestion that they were fly blisters, and the blister appeared. you will see that it is all a matter of induced feeling. The more marked results merely evidencing the power of the mind of the individual over the mind in the portions of his body, as I have shown in the chapter entitled Mental Therapeutics in my work on mental magic. Many other experiments along the line of sense control might be mentioned, but they are all but different forms of the same thing. The ingenuity of the experimenter will indicate manifold variations, if he sees fit to follow up the subject. Induced sense of smell. The sense of smell may be induced by the experimenter suggesting to the impressionable that a bottle contains a liquid smelling like certain perfumes, etc. This may be varied by changing the suggestion so that all the well-known perfumes may be sensed, like the legend of the magic perfume bottle of the wizard, which probably was nothing more than a case of clever induction of the sense of smell by the method mentioned herein. Personal experiences. I have seen a number of cases of this kind in my personal experience, in which large numbers of people were impressed in this way. In one case, I was attending a play, the scene of which was laid in the South, and in which one of the characters remarked, "Oh, smell the magnolia. How strong is their odor in this heavy, warm night air." And in a moment, the audience noticed a plain odor of magnolias floating over the house. So strong was the impression that many insisted that the management had actually introduced the odor in order to heighten the effect, but inquiry showed this to be erroneous, for no odor was actually used. More recently, I attended a play, The Girl with the Green Eyes, in which one of the characters was supposed to have committed suicide by turning on the gas, in full sight of the audience. The room was large, and jet after jet of the many chandeliers, bracket lights, etc., were turned on by the woman. In a short time, people in the audience began to sniff and say, "Smell the gas," until everyone thought they smelled it, and some women felt faint. Of course, the original impression was given by the physical suggestion, but as soon as people took on the impression, it spread like a contagion by the law of mental induction, until all felt it more or less. The professor's experiment. There are cases recorded of the effect being deliberately produced. For instance, the tale of the old German professor, who after telling his class that he would uncork a bottle containing a chemical compound noted for its foul odor, uncorked a bottle of distilled water, possessing no odor at all. The class soon perceived the supposed odor, and row after row of students showed their disgust. The waves of the supposed vapor floated over the room, just as would have been the case if the genuine liquid had been uncorked. Those nearest the platform perceiving it first, and then the next row, and so on, until the whole room was filled with it. Even after the professor explained the nature of the experiment, the class still sniffed away, and many refused to believe the explanation. So strong was the impression. These cases were nothing else than instances of induced sensation of smell, along the lines of mental impression. Induced sight. A sense of sight may be induced in the same way. A common experiment with a very impressionable person is as follows. Tell him to extend his hand, palm down. Then mark a cross on the back of his hand with your forefinger, pressing well into the skin, at the same time saying, "See, I have marked a black cross on your hand. On your hand, a black cross. See it there. You see it. There now. black, black, a black cross. You see it there, don't you? Etc. And if he be sufficiently impressionable, he will see it. The more that you can imagine the black cross there, the stronger will be his impression of it. If you will call the attention of people to the extraordinary blueness of the sky, they will be very apt to acquiesce, some of them going into raptures over it, although the sky is no bluer than at any other time. It is astonishing how many of these impressions are given and taken in everyday life. Someone thinks the room is very close, and immediately many people begin to feel suffocated and wish the windows raised. Someone suggests a draft, and people begin to shiver. Someone remarks how extremely warm the day is, and people begin to mop their foreheads, and so on, all being bits from the same piece. Induced hearing. The sense of hearing may be induced in the same way. Tell your impressionable that he hears the song of a bird or the whistle of a locomotive, at the same time using your own imagination vigorously and giving the suggestions sufficiently vividly, and he will hear the sounds mentioned. You may try this on several people in a room, on an ordinary occasion, by pretending to hear the humming of a bee, or a distant whistle, or some other faint sound such as the distant wail of a child, and a certain percentage of those present, after a moment or two of intent listening, will affirm that they heard the sound. Induced taste. The sense of taste is easily induced. The well-known experiment of suggesting the taste of lemons with the accompanying flow of saliva and taste of acid is a good example. With a good impressionable, you may induce a sense of changing tastes from extreme sweetness to extreme acidity in a simple, tasteless glass of water. It all depends upon the degree of impressionability of the persons tested, and the strength of your own imagination and suggestion. It is all a question of induced sensation. The professional hypnotist turns this to good account in his entertainment. Personal experiments. In this connection, I would say that several years ago, when I was devoting much time to experimental work, I cured many cases of tobacco chewing, cigarette habit, etc., by a course of vivid suggestion, accompanied by visualization, manifesting as mental induction. I would create a mental image of the tobacco or cigarettes as having a disgusting taste, a taste that produced a feeling akin to nausea, and then would concentrate my mind and feeling upon the other person, giving him at the same time the most vivid suggestions of disgusting, nauseating, sickening taste, etc., 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 until he would be unable to chew the tobacco or smoke the cigarette. Then, by following up the matter by giving him the strongest future impression, that he would always remember the sensation of disgusting taste whenever he attempted to chew or smoke, and that the tobacco or cigarette would always induce those feelings in him, a cure of the habit would be effected. Sleep condition not necessary. Some practitioners of suggestive therapeutics have met with much success in the treatment of undesirable habits in this way. It is true that many of these practitioners have believed that it was necessary to produce the hypnotic sleep in order to get the results. But this is simply because they themselves are self-hypnotized with the sleep delusion. And if they would but throw off their spell and begin to experiment along the other lines, they would see that the same results could be obtained without the slightest attempt to produce sleep. Senses inhibited. Just as the senses may be rendered by induction, so may they be inhibited in the same way. any of the above experiments with the senses may be reversed at will. Tell your impressionable that he cannot hear a certain sound, smell a certain odor, taste a certain taste, feel a certain sensation, see a certain thing, and if you be sufficiently positive, and he sufficiently impressionable, and if you use your imagination and suggestion sufficiently well, the senses will be inhibited in his mind for the time being. Remarkable instances. In the matter of inhibition of the sense of feeling, some most remarkable results may be obtained. In fact, all of the results along this line, secured by the hypnotists with the aid of the deep sleep, may be obtained without attempt at sleep. I have seen minor operations performed under the influence of induced inhibition of the sense of feeling. I have seen teeth extracted with little or no pain in this way. I have seen nervous patients, unusually sensitive to pain, able to stand dental work with practically no discomfort by means of such inhibition of the sense of feeling. Even the brutal experiments of many of the stage hypnotists who run needles through hypnotized patients' cheeks without causing pain, even these can be duplicated without sleep being induced, although I consider such exhibitions deplorable and disgusting, and worthy of the severest condemnation. I merely mention these last to show the power of induced feeling, or inhibition of the same by induction. The secret of inhibition. The secret of the inhibition of the senses is that the will is directed to shutting off the attention to the part or organ. If the attention can be removed or shut off, no pain will be felt. Many persons have practiced on themselves until they can inhibit pain in portions of their body. And in inducing the effect in another person, the same methods are used, accompanied by suggestion. Mental anesthesia. It may be of interest to many students to have me make a little more detailed reference to this subject of anesthesia by mental induction. Anesthesia, you know, is an entire or partial loss or absence of feeling or sensation. We generally think of this condition as being brought about only by something like ether, gas, etc. But anything that will tend to inhibit sensation is an anesthetic. The word inhibit, you know, means to check, to hold back, to restrain, etc. And pain and sensation may be inhibited by pure mental impression. Historical instances. History is full of instances of inhibition of pain by strong mental feeling, emotion, ecstasy, etc. Religious fanatics have mutilated themselves barbarously without the feeling of pain. The American Indians, in their wild dances, wound themselves without feeling the pain. In India, the fanatical devotees torture themselves in horrible ways as a religious rite and seem entirely callous to pain. People have been burned at the stake, chanting joyful songs, and martyrs have been crunched in the jaws of the wild beasts with laughter and joy fully manifest. All of these instances, and many others of the same kind, show that it is possible for the mind of a person to inhibit pain in himself. And the inhibition of pain in a person by another person is merely a calling into play of the same power, by means of induction and suggestion. It is not a creation of the power in the person, but merely a calling forth that which is already there. How to inhibit pain in another. The following simple but very effective method is that used in the best psychological laboratories. The impressionable is comfortably seated or placed in a reclining position before the experimenter. Let us suppose that it is wished to inhibit sensation in his arm. In that case, the experimenter will begin to stroke the arm upward, from fingertips to shoulder. The effect of this stroking is to restrain the circulation, which latter responds readily to such suggestion, as we shall see a little later on. The experimenter says, "Now I am taking the circulation away from your arm and putting the nerves to rest. You will begin to feel a sensation of coolness and numbness coming over your arm, from fingertips to shoulder. Now you feel it. Your arm is getting numb. Numb, I say, quite numb. Getting numb, getting numb, getting numb, 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 numb. It is now quite numb. You cannot feel pain in it. See, I will prick it with this needle, but you will not feel pain. You can feel the touch, but cannot feel any pain, and so on, until complete inhibition is effected. When you first prick with the point of the needle, do so but gently, although appearing to do it with force. This will reassure the patient, and will make him relax his resisting will the more. Result of repetition. The above process continued in the right person and in the proper manner will produce wonderful results. In fact, in this way is the inhibition of sensation produced, in order that minor operations may be performed without the use of ether, etc. A little practice for several days renders the effect more marked each time, until the desired degree is obtained. The above method is the most simple, and yet the most effective, known to experimental psychologists, and if persisted in, and performed intelligently, is capable of wonderful development. It should be unnecessary for me to add that the experimenter should keep before his own mind, vividly, the condition he wishes to produce in the patient. He should endeavor to actually see him insensible to pain, and should throw his whole belief and earnestness into the suggestions. More than lip service is necessary. Directing the circulation. In connection with the above experiments, the following is interesting. You may take an impressionable person and increase the circulation in any part of the body, or else inhibit it partially, just as you wish. You may prove this by ordering the circulation back in one arm and increasing it in another, the result being that one hand will be a ghastly white and the other a deep red color. Blood may be drawn away from the head in this manner, and headaches thereby relieved. But I must stop this, for I am encroaching upon the subject of mental therapeutics. In this direction of the circulation upward or downward, as the case may be, passes of the hands will prove of great assistance, for this motion is followed by the attention, and an axiom in suggestive therapeutics is that the circulation follows the attention. Downward passes increase the circulation to the limbs, upward ones inhibit it. I have spoken of the above effects being produced upon the impressionables. I mean by this that such people are the more readily affected. But remember this, that even the strongest-willed man or woman may be affected in this manner, if he or she, by directing this will, actually cooperate in the matter. For instance, the very strength of a man's will may aid in the inhibition of pain by suggestion, because he will be cooperating with the suggester. All the effect comes from the power within in any case, and all the experimenter or suggester does is to call that power into effect. It is akin to driving a team of strong horses, or the running of a 1,000 horsepower engine. The power is not in the driver or engineer, but they make the thing go nevertheless. In closing this chapter, let me again impress upon the experimenter the importance of always removing the impression after the experiment. Remember the important final, "Now you're all right. All right now, all right." In the next chapter, we pass on to the consideration of the phenomena of induced imagination. End of chapter 9.